o'clock, we will call our meeting to order. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call vote, please?
Kurt Schultz.
Here.
Soren Peterson.
Here.
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
David Walker.
Here.
Jennifer Eden.
Here.
And Chuck Schultz is absent.
I'd like to move a couple things around on the agenda. Since Mr. Macklin is here, he's number 2. I'd like to move him to number 1 so he can get home to his family tonight. And then let's move number 3 to 2 and number 1 to 3. That'll be a little bit better chronological order for what we're working on tonight. Then the rest will stay. Does anybody have any ads or? I'll entertain the motion.
So support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from November 17th, 2019, clerk's warrants and bills.
So
Support. Been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next, communications number 1, Health Department Annual Radon Action Month Letter.
So support.
Been motioned and supported to receive and place communication item number 1 on file. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Public remarks. Does anybody have any public comment or remark? Being there's none, we'll move to unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. So we will move to new business. We switch that around. The first one is a Macklin mechanical quote, options needed for future upgrades. As you know, when we purchased this building, we knew that we had units that are nearing end of life, and we kind of putting together a plan going forward to replace some of our HVAC equipment each year and for the next 4 or 5 years until it's all been replaced, and we're prioritizing which units need to be done. When we first moved in, I noticed that offices were 80 degrees and offices were 60 degrees. So I asked our mechanical contractor if he could come down and take a look at it and see why that was. So I pulled up the blueprints for the building, he took a look at it, and he recommended that we look at doing a zone system when we upgrade these units. Now, I'm not a mechanical contractor. I know the ins and outs of it inside my head, but for me to explain it would I'd probably miss something. So I asked Wayne if he would come down and graciously talk to us about it and explain why we would want to do it, what the value proposition is, where the rubber meets the road with it, and does it make a wise investment to do that. So if you would please take a moment to brief us and bring us up to speed on this quote you provided and what it will do for us.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So really the 2 areas in question are the east end, north and south perimeter offices. That center section, which is served by, there's a mechanical closet over here that has 4 units, and then there's the back one would be, I call it the east one, it has 3 units. You walk into that room, when I was here earlier in the summer doing the assessment, I numbered everything, so at least I can keep things straight and understand when I quote things. So if you look in there, you go, oh, we want to stick to 5 or whatever. So I gave him some numbers on there just so we could all be talking
An
about
identity, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I did the same to the corresponding air conditioners outside, just so it's just easier for us to keep track of you. So when this building was built, that's a common, the way they did it is common, mostly for cost wise, is, all the units are the same size. They probably got a smoking deal on the equipment and all that, because no building, when you have a 7-unit system, 7 pieces of equipment, they really need it to be different sizes based on the loads of the building at different times of the day and seasons and all that. So I think it was just more of a generic type of installation, if that makes sense. They're all 5-ton units, or, all 100,000 B2 furnaces. So it just, so what happens is, and they're single stage type equipment, one thermostat per system. So when you're on the perimeters of I think we call it your office is on the south perimeter wall, right? So as the day goes, you have different loads on the building, on both sides of the building, and the perimeters are affected by them the most. So it'd be number 5 unit, number 7 unit. You call for it with one thermostat, you set it, and it's just gonna know, all it knows is to satisfy, run it as long as it can or whatever to satisfy that thermostat. And it has a common duct system for just that unit. So let's just say that unit is calling for, let's say that unit's, that where the thermostat is comfortable and it's maintaining temperature. Maybe you're gonna get hot. Strictly perimeters, I don't think there's really anything, I only quoted the 2 perimeter units, because I don't think that center section, it's interior, very little load on it. So what happens is it's satisfied, and then you get hot in the other, as that sun and as the day progresses, you're gonna get hot or cold based on whatever that is, impinging on that, we call it the envelope of the building. So by doing a zone system, it can put 2-3 thermostats on each perimeter, and we can only send the amount of air as needed to those spaces, and at the end of the day, it gives you greater comfort level throughout the day, and it saves you utility costs, because now we've taken this big duct system, and it has this big furnace and big AC, and we can actually reduce the size of the equipment, because now we're only sending air to 1/3 of that system at any one time. You follow me? So now it's like it has its individualized air delivery. So I can downsize that equipment, ultimately saves you dollars on your utilities.
What does that do for the longevity of the system?
They're gonna last a lot longer. I mean, it runs less. A zone system is always gonna run less than a constant volume, single stage piece of equipment. It's gonna run, there'll be times you'll go, wow, it's comfortable in here, and you haven't heard that thing kick on in hours.
So when I'm always freezing and the girls are always hot up front, we can address that with that zone system.
You can, in just the perimeter offices.
Right.
Have you seen any issue in the center sections of the no comfort issues, or?
No.
That system probably doesn't turn on very often. I'd imagine that one runs the least of those 3 back there. How have you seen the north perimeter? Have you had other
It's warm.
more?
Yeah, and on the south perimeter, it's cold.
Okay.
So what is a typical return on investment on something like this? Are we talking?
Well, yeah, and I was thinking about that coming here, and that's always a hard one to peg, because you have multiple systems.
Right.
If you were to replace all your systems with new equipment and all that, we'd have a set point to say, okay, this is what our bills are now. This is a new facility, so I don't know what that net gain is going to be for you on the utility side. Typically, if it was when we replace a system like that and add zoning to it, you could save 30 to 40% on your utilities per system. But so on 2 of the systems of the 7, you're going to spend, a good deal less on your utilities. How that affects your overall utility costs, that I'd be guessing to see. Typical system like that might cost $1,500 to $2,000 a year to run on the heating, on the utilities of that system. You could, we see it 30 to, I've seen 50%, but I didn't say that. Does that make sense? It
You've
just
seen it,
depends.
yeah, but you don't want to quote it because,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it gives you the ability to have different comfort levels within the same area. So let's just say, Mike, you like it warmer, somebody likes it cooler, the other person on the next zone likes it warmer. You can tailor it. We can get those all within, set points that you can't do with a normal single-stage system, because when that call, the systems you have now, when it calls for heat or cool, it gives you all the heat capacity, gives you all the airflow, whether you need it or not. And most of the time, you don't need the full capacity of a system, even in a home. It just, that's all it does, is it turns on and turns off. Whereas a two-stage equipment with zoning, all day long, it's ramping up and down. It's a furnace with basically like a car with only 2 gears. Most of the time, with a zone system, it's only gonna run on that single stage, low heat, low airflow, to maintain as it's needed on those perimeter offices. So only on the coldest days are you gonna hear that system ramp up into second stage. So there's where your overall costs come down, because a single stage furnace, if it's rated for 100,000 BTUs capacity, that first stage heating may only be 50,000 BTUs. So you're using half the capacity the vast majority of the time.
So the value proposition is that we downsize the equipment, more energy efficiency, more longevity, because they're working at half their work cycle.
Absolutely. And, I mean, the good part is I climbed up in the attic and I looked, the duct system is good. I don't have to do any reducting or anything crazy like that in the attic. We're just gonna add zone dampers to each diffuser, and they just all talk to this common control board back at the system, and whatever thermostat calls, it opens those, closes the other ones, sends all the air here all day long. It ramps up and down all day long.
Now, what's the guarantee on a system like that?
We do, I don't know what other people do, businesses, but when somebody does, a business or a homeowner does a furnace and AC, we give a 10-year transferable warranty. So let's just say, you're into 5 years and, you decide to go buy another building somewhere or whatever. My business, I will transfer those warranties to the new owners of the building. Our equipment's gonna have lifetime warranty on the heat exchangers, gonna have 10-year on the AC compressors, limited 10-year on the compressors, 10-year parts on the furnace. We have the best, absolute best warranties.
Okay.
I don't know that anybody carries any better.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Will that mean there'll be thermostats in all the offices, or how do they regulate?
No, I think on that side, because looking at the prints, it showed, I think your office was actually had a wall, is that right, before?
Yes.
You guys opened that up. So I think one in Mike's, I'm sorry, is there 4 offices along that perimeter?
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 offices.
Okay, I think you can do it good with 3. I don't know that you need to put it in every single office. I think that might be a little overkill. But I think if you do 3, maybe, Mike's, and then 1 in the middle, somewhere in the middle office, and then maybe 1 towards the front of the building, I guess, or, I think would suffice.
It's not time for public comment, but
It's for you guys.
I'll take it. Go ahead.
How much more would it cost to put thermostats in each room, just in case down the road they would want to regulate it?
It's $500 to $800, roughly, because then we have to put the, obviously provide the thermostat, but then we also have to provide the wiring, the control wiring to the brain. If I do if I do a 5-zone system, I have to go with a different control panel than what I had quoted. So, if you, in your mind, you budgeted $800 per additional thermostat, you'd probably have covered. I think I figured basically a mirror image, so on the north side too was three stats. 3 stats.
So this quote is for 2 AC units, 2 furnaces, and a zone system with the thermostats.
2 zone systems, so each, there's a zone system, yeah.
And 3 rooms.
Yeah.
Is there any salvage value to the old equipment? 0, just take it out and scrap it.
Somebody wants to pull a trailer up, we'll throw them on there for you and take them to the, yeah, there isn't.
End of life.
Yeah.
Now,
excuse me,
Go
just for a second too, I think I sent you, so we replaced number 5 and number 7, but the middle system, number 6, that serves the center section, that air conditioner is kaput. So,
We knew that.
yeah, so just so you know, I didn't quote, that second quote was only for strictly replacing the AC for that middle section.
That's the one that's, Wayne, that's the one that's number 6
Yeah.
in there, okay.
Bad compressor, it's bad.
Just shot.
It's shot.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And those 16, and those are 16 SEER air conditioners that I quoted you, not base model 13 SEER. As soon as you go step up, that's the efficiency ratings for air conditioners. So as soon as you go to a 16 SEER, that's when you're gonna really see the difference in utility costs, electric, on those air conditioners.
So we have 7 furnaces now. If we go to these new models, long-term, how many can we compact that to? 'Cause you said you could use
Say that again?
different, do we still need 7 furnaces if we were to replace them all? At some point between now and 10 years, I'm sure they'll all have to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, I
Because you
would,
go bigger, or do the zoning, or do
well,
whatever?
I don't know, well, you haven't had this really building long enough to really see the effects, the comfort levels throughout the year.
Right.
I would probably, these 4, if you're not seeing any issues, I would probably just like for like, replace those. I may be able to downsize those a little bit. I'd have to really look at the duct system again. I really didn't concentrate much on the duct system of this end of the, to be honest, but, it would more than likely be like for like on those.
Okay.
You could do 2-stage equipment on those, so you could, instead of downsizing, because it's very possible that you don't need that full capacity all the time out of those furnaces. When those turn on, it gives you full blast, So, these aren't in that bad a shape, I'll be honest. What I did, and I kind of walked through, there was a couple gas leaks, but I didn't see anything major standing out. They're old, That's when we talked, we just kind of put it on the radar, that these would be.
And not particularly efficient, then, right?
What's that?
Old and not particularly efficient.
Yeah, the biggest thing is your efficiency rating now is gonna be 96%, those are probably 90, 92, as old as they are, they may be a little less than that. The new motors, lower motors now are ECM motors, so they run cooler. Anytime a motor can run cooler, it's gonna cost you less.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the motors have come a long way too on the electric side.
So when would you predict that we would have to continue replacing things? I mean, would we schedule that and say in 3 years we need to?
Boy, that's the $64,000 question.
Well,
How I kind of, I don't want to say protocol, maybe the threshold I use in my own business is when I'm at a customer's home or building is, once something gets to that 15 to 20 years old, if it requires a major repair, that's when we start to look at, does it make sense? Normally, this is a very informal formula I use, but I take the age of the equipment and I times it by what the cost of the repair is going to be. And if it's more than or equal or more than what a new one would cost, I always recommend replacement. They are like cars. Eventually, you can throw good money after, you can nickel and dime these things to death, and it can cost you a lot. So to say they're going to last, or that's completely up to you how you would want to. You could be proactive and just replace one system a year, or if you replace 2 or 3 at a time, we're going to get a little better price on the equipment. Doing more of a bulk order, but it's not super substantial at that point.
I think it's smart to, and we've talked about this in the past, is, we know that they're near end of life, so we should make a plan to replace 1 or 2 of them every year
Right.
until they're all new.
You just want to make sure you replace the right ones, because if
Right.
you replace one and then,
Yeah, you want to
Yeah,
replace the
don't
right
replace
ones,
them.
and you don't want them to go down in the middle of winter or the summer.
Which is when they always go down.
Well,
That's why we're being proactive.
Yeah, right.
well,
Trying to get out in front of it a little bit.
When I did my, my walkthrough in the summer, the furnaces are in way better shape than the air conditioners. The air conditioners are not all that great. They've had some repairs done to them. I just, you know, and there's gonna need there's a few small things each one needs, but the air conditioners seem to be in a little rougher shape than the furnaces, which they're outside and you know, it's gonna happen.
So is there like a regular maintenance schedule that you provide on them then?
We do, and did I send you, we've been doing the preventive maintenance for you guys for a few years. Did I send you one for this building?
I think so.
I can't remember, because
I think
for
so.
some reason I felt like I did, and then I looked through my estimate app and all that, and I didn't see it, but I know we talked about it.
I know we did talk about it.
I know we didn't do a fall.
I don't wanna say yes or no.
I couldn't find it, and, you know,
It's
we.
been kinda crazy with the move, so we've
Yeah.
had a lot of stuff and changes. And it may have come across, it may have not. but-
I can certainly put
Yeah,
one
get
together.
that resent, that'd be great. No, we put it out to bid, before you were on the board, and, selected Macklin Mechanicals. What we do is every spring and fall, he comes and recommissions the air conditions and checks them and makes sure that they're freon and gas and everything in them is right, and make sure that they're running smooth, and then, you know, kind of shuts the furnaces down and then flips it in the fall.
So we don't necessarily have to replace an air conditioning unit and a furnace at the same time? We could just do the AC units maybe
Well, here's,
first?
yes, you can, to answer your question. The tricky part about how all this has been installed is you almost want to do them both at the same
Okay.
time, because just the way that they put them in, we almost have to, if you were to say, hey, let's just
take them
replace a
back out,
furnace.
put them back in.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's almost a
okay.
dismantle to do one or the other. I would, like, the quote I gave you was just for the AC.
Mhm.
So it's not the equipment, it's the labor would kill you.
It really is, yeah. And they're up on pedestals, which is a good design, but it also doesn't really lend itself great to replace
Still
it.
working,
Yeah, it's great first design, but it's kind of tricky,
As long as you
so,
build a building around it, you're fine.
yeah.
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 So, I mean, we can either accept this or just, you know, figure out what we're gonna do. Part of the reason I had them come in and do it is because we're getting into the budgeting process now. And if it's something that we're looking at doing, then we need to budget for doing it that way.
You may as well do it now as opposed to later. And I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept both proposals.
Second. Support. It's been motioned and supported to accept both proposals, and this will be for next fiscal year's budget, so we'll get, right. For Macklin Heating and Cooling for the heating and air conditioning replacement and zone system. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to the maintenance agreement, and then, once we get into the new fiscal year, we get ready to go,
Just let us know, yeah.
let you know, and get this thing running and get it running.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next is item number 2. This is a discussion regarding the historic township hall future. We know that we have decided that we're gonna sell the previous building we're in. We still have the historical building there, and kind of looking for some direction or discussion on how we wanna handle this, how we wanna go forward. It was built in, was it the 1800s? It was built for about $800 roughly. It was over on Heartland Road. I believe they spent $40,000 moving it from Heartland Road to its current location. There was some light use at one time, and about 15 years ago, it became a junkyard. And when I became supervisor, I noticed that, so I cleaned it out, got it cleaned up, and Marcy helped me with getting it rehabbed as far as the floors, and we had it repainted, and got the heat working in there, electricity working in there, and thinking that somebody would have an interest in it, and everybody has an emotional attachment, but they don't have an interest in it. So just to move it, and that's not tearing down the old porch, tearing down the walkway, any of the tree overhead, any of the power line movement, none of the foundation that it needs to sit on, not running the gas, not running the electric, not rebuilding the steps that are ADA compliant, just to move it's $40,000. I would be surprised if it cost less than $100,000 to move it. So, where does the rubber meet the road with this building? And do we feel that we're gonna get a return on our investment? So, that's kind of the history on it, so.
Assuming we moved it here, what would we use it for? I mean, is it gonna be, are we moving an empty building to a new space to be an empty building?
Unless we've got somebody that wants to stand up and say, hey, I wanna do this, do that, and do it.
So,
But it's easy to say that you're gonna do something
right,
when you're spending $100,000 of everybody else's money.
so have we asked, cause I know they will, I don't know how they do this. And I'm not sure who bears the cost of it. But Livingston County Fairgrounds over in Fowlerville will have basically moved a number of old buildings onto those grounds for usage, as display items, those kind of things. Do we ask them if they'd be interested in the township hall?
We could.
Because I know they have a number of, they've got, in my, anecdotally, I'm gonna say they've got 10 or 12 buildings that were all spread out through the county that they have taken and moved there for display purposes that they're using now over in Fowlerville for Livingston County Fairgrounds. Couldn't hurt to ask them. I mean, that way you'd still preserve it, it would still be in the county. If they'd be interested, and let them move it, let them have it.
What if they say they're interested and they want us to move it? We still got.
We would say, you could come and get it. I'm not sure I would want, I'm not sure I want to spend the taxpayers' money to move it, so. If they want it, and they want to move it, I'm totally okay with it. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with using taxpayer money to move it.
All right, that's one option.
Is it a state historical building?
It is a historical building. I called them. The only thing that we are obligated to do is maintain the footprint and the overall appearance of it, not do any major modifications, leave it in its current state, basically. If a window needs to be replaced, replace the window. If a piece of floorboard needs to be replaced, siding, roof, that, etc. That's, just the basic maintenance part. We can have it undesignated with a phone call. I mean, it's a historical site, it can be an unhistorical site. I mean, I like the building, it has a lot of character. Obviously, I've had a lot of passion for it because I've done a lot of work on it. But I've done a lot of work on it, and all I ever hear is, well, go ahead and move it, but nobody wants to use it.
Well, it's a historical site in only name only, because it's not where it was originally built. It's moved from.
It's a historical building, yeah.
Yeah, the building is historical, but
Right.
the site effectively is not where it was originally. 'Cause
Correct.
It's like moving Grant's Tomb to Paducah, Kentucky, right? It's
Right.
not really-
Yeah, well, I know if this was my item, if I spent $800 to build something, I think it would be pretty crazy to spend $40,000 and not use it.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and spend another $100,000, wow, I'd have a long line of friends, because obviously I'm not very proficient with my money.
Well, and then I guess the question is, what are you gonna, I mean, it would be different if you were gonna use it for a museum, or if you were going to, my fear is you're gonna move it here so it sits as an empty building like it does right now.
Like it has for 20 years.
Yeah, right. So,
What if we don't move it, then what?
Do we have an alternative to leave it where it is?
I mean, we could,
Always have the alternative.
we
to
could
leave it.
sell it with the building, we could entertain some type of use with the current landowner and retain rights to it and move it at a later time if that became a case. I mean, we have options. I mean, we're entering into possibly entering into a sales contract with somebody, and we
Right.
can, you know, set the terms on it as long as they're willing to abide by the terms. So,
But are we gonna continue to maintain it then on somebody else's property, or are we going to?
that,
Be part of that.
or we could just sell it with the building.
Yeah, I mean, if I was buying that property, it's not gonna be acceptable to say, you know, you're gonna have it contingent on the possibility that you want it later. But if you're not gonna maintain it, I don't want this building falling down around next to my building that I just bought. I'm
Yeah,
just being-
we'd probably still be on the hook for
Yeah.
maintaining it. It's one of those things that you're gonna have some people that, you know, I've heard comments from, well, it's part of our history movement to burn it down. And I don't know if we're gonna make everybody happy, but we
Well, I
have
wouldn't
to.
encourage us to burn it down.
Well, no, I'm just saying, those are the comments that I've heard, you know, that's quote, don't take that from me, because that's not my intent, but, Ross, what do you got?
There may be a way to split it off and maintain ownership, potentially, of just the building in the immediate area. We may be able to grant a variance for that, being a historic site, potentially.
That's
I mean,
another
It's
option.
an option worth exploring, at least, if you did want to maintain it. But it
But how-
would be just. the
We would have to
structure.
have access,
Yeah, you could potentially have an easement.
do shared driveway agreement or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's potential. It's not a guarantee. I haven't explored it at all, but I believe that there's potential, that there is a way to retain ownership of that structure as a separate parcel.
But having said that, assuming we did that, what are we gonna do with it?
Understood.
Yeah,
I don't have an answer for that.
Right.
I don't, other than it's.
And I'm probably I'm not a sentimentalist, so while I like old things and I collect old shotguns and things, I'm really not a sentimentalist. I really don't get hung up on.
It's more of it just being a landmark,
Yeah, I get it.
historic structure.
I get that.
It's if you wanted to keep it.
What's it cost us to maintain it in insurance and electric and all that kind of stuff?
I think that's probably pretty minimal. We keep the heat at, what, a 50?
Yeah, well, we've got a propane bill on it. It's not well insulated, it's an old building. We,
It's probably
It's the
newspapers.
liability insurance.
you're probably right. And, you know, it has the old screw-in fuses, but it does have electricity, so
Does it have water out there?
no, it does not.
Toilet.
So all you're dealing with is the electricity.
Electricity and the propane.
And however many pennies you have to put behind the fuses to make them work.
Well, we thought at one time maybe we might get people interested in having weddings there. And, you know, that's kind of what we were kind of working towards before we knew we were going to move.
Right.
You know, by getting it painted, getting the
Mhm.
floor done, and then we were gonna work on putting a new front porch on it this year, because right now it's not safe.
Yeah.
And we thought, you know, it might be a nice place for people to hold weddings. But I don't know if there's
As long as
really
not more than
interest.
30 or 40 people attending. so,
Well, true.
Yeah.
In my time here, I have not heard of any interest in using it for any particular thing. I did go to the, what's the society?
Historical.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
and I did approach them and ask them if they would, since we put a new furnace in it, put a new floor in it, painted it, are you gonna utilize the space? And they're like, no. So if they're not willing to use it,
Yeah,
I see
you-
no bearings and.
I mean, you're gonna have to find, to do that, you're gonna have to find somebody that's got a passion and a desire to do it.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, Heartland has the museum in downtown. Unfortunately, the person that has the desire of the funding mechanism for that is my wife, but no any idea, she has no desire to do that in Tyrone, and I can't afford another dependent in the form of another building like that, so. But, I mean, unless you find somebody that's willing to do that, it's just not gonna,
Right.
it's just not gonna make sense. It doesn't make economic sense.
Cost.
I understand the sentimentality, don't get me wrong, I get that, but it doesn't make economic sense to keep it. I think I'm leaning more, just my opinion, I would lean more towards, hey, if you get one building, you get two. So,
2 for the price?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't see.
One completely unusable and certainly non-conforming, and actually less conforming than the one they're buying, so. yeah.
I can't see using taxpayers' money to move
I
it.
don't
and
When's
no
the
one
next
is using-
historical society meeting? You know,
Should be this month.
should we run it by them?
That's fine with me, I mean,
See
like
if
I
they
say,
want-
I'm not a sentimentalist. I'll
See
do
if they
wrong
wanna
answers.
lift up their mattresses and, put their money where their mouth is. I mean, I would be willing if
They
they
don't
were
have
to
to buy it, we'll just give it to them. They gotta
Well-
move it, and they gotta find a, or to Ross's point, if they wanna maintain it and they wanna undertake that, then you can get the easement, but
Would we be willing to match dollars if they raise money and had a use for it?
why?
I'm just asking.
Okay. Well, I'm only one of 7. So, no, but I'm just one of 7.
Okay. Is anybody else interested in something like that? No, I'm just looking at options, so we
Yeah,
can
no, I
say, hey,
understand.
we've discussed this thoroughly, and, you know, we didn't leave people out of the loop, and this is what we determined, because I know that there's gonna be,
Can you tell me what's the square foot on that building? How big a building is it?
it's, oh, gosh,
It's not square, it's,
I would say 500 to 600 square foot, maybe?
Is that small? It's only 600 square
Yeah.
foot?
Yeah,
It's not very deep, it's not quite square, but it's pretty close to being square, so when you see the front, I mean, there might be another 5 feet going
I'd estimate
back,
between
it's pretty
600
close to
and
square.
800.
Pretty close to square, I think.
18
Yeah,
by
it is.
20 something.
Is it? Yeah.
It's probably about 18 by
24 maybe, I don't know, I measured it over
Just
the
guessing
summer.
that.
Oh, you did?
600,
Okay.
800.
Yeah, I would say probably about 600 square foot.
Well, if it was moved to a different piece of property in the township, could anybody use it for anything?
We wanted people to use it.
Well, I mean, you couldn't use it for a home, right? Or could you?
No, it doesn't have a lot of functionality. I mean, you'd be pouring quite a bit of money, in my opinion, you'd be pouring quite a bit of money into it, so.
Yeah, it doesn't have plumbing, it doesn't have insulation, yeah.
There's no pipes or nothing.
You'd be better off starting from scratch and building your own.
Yeah, to bring it up to code would cost you a fortune.
And get rid of your fuses. All electrical might have to be replaced.
So guess I'll type up something,
Just look and
I'll
see.
check with Livingston County Fairgrounds. We'll look into the variance and we will talk to the Historical Society. I'll type up a memo to send over to them and let them know where
So
we
if
stand
we
on it.
were to split it off by a variance, if we were able to, how are we gonna present it to the Historical Society? Here you can just have it, but you have to maintain it? I mean, who's paying the taxes on it, cause it's no longer,
It would be exempt.
It'd be, yeah, I was
It's
gonna say, it's
still-
a
It would be
historical
exempt.
building, it's
As long as it's
exempt.
township-owned property and it's public property. then
but
it's-
if we were doing something with historical, are they taking it over? It would no longer be our property, right?
It would still be ours, but they would maintain it.
Yeah. But it still doesn't go back on the tax rolls.
No, it'd be exempt.
Yeah, still exempt.
As long as it's owned by Tyrone Township.
That's what I mean,
And
if you
used
were
for
to,
public use.
if somebody from the
I mean,
Historical
and
Society
when
were
we
to
say
purchase it,
maintain it, does that
They
include
wouldn't straight up purchase it.
the gas
They
and
would be responsible
electricity?
for the maintenance of it.
okay.
Yes, it would include those things.
So we'd have to have separate utilities, because right now it's
It's all
one,
together.
one propane tank that, for both of the buildings, one electrical,
It just keeps
yeah.
peeling back layers, doesn't it?
I say it's more cost efficient to let it go with the
Yeah,
sales.
It's not square, because I'm looking at it right now.
It's a
on
rectangle.
Google Maps. It's a rectangle, but
Yeah.
it's not a lot longer than it is wide. I mean,
No,
I'm
it's
just
very
looking at it on
close.
Google Maps, so. But it's also not very big, it's
No,
pretty
it's very
small.
small.
Yeah, it's gonna have to have its own service, and it's gonna have to have its own gas. Okay.
My guess is they're not gonna want anything to do with it. Cause they didn't even wanna utilize it after we used it last year.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out.
Okay.
Okay, good enough,
At least you asked.
that's right.
Okay, so we've discussed number 3, and we've got a course of action to go with that. Now we're gonna go back to item number 3.
Trees,
Original number 1.
yeah.
Right, original number 1, which was 3. So we're discussing 2 proposals that we have. Proposal 1, you guys can see the number there, and proposal 2. Based on the number here, I would think that we're down to proposal 1.
Yeah, I don't see a compelling reason for number 2.
So, based on what we know, does that number seem like something we want to move forward with? Do we want to counter that number? Or do we want to, what will we want to do?
I'm okay with the number that's offered. It's within the window of what we were looking for in the first place, so. So every day you keep it, you're paying the utilities on it, you're paying for the maintenance, you're doing everything else with it.
And insurance.
Yeah, that's right, you're doing all the maintenance, you get everything that goes with it and all the hassle that goes with it.
Because it's vacant,
Yep.
more insurance.
So it's deteriorating on an ongoing basis, and at that point, it's certainly within the parameters that we were looking for when we talked about it, so I'm fine with one. But I'm just one. I'm just surprised we have 2. So,
You know, that's a good thing.
I'm a little surprised we actually got 2, but
Does anybody think that we
Or
need
cash
to
offers.
do anything other than accept the offer?
Need a motion to do so?
No, we're having discussion still.
It's just discussing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to even look at the second one.
yeah.
Right, but what I'm saying is we're discussing proposal 1, and we feel that is, we have one comment that says it's good, we should go with it.
I'd go with
I
one.
think we should counter.
I'm okay with that.
With countering or the offer?
I'm okay with the offer.
Yeah,
I'm
you know,
only one.
yeah, I you know,
I'm just thinking of Chuck's calculation of square footage
right,
and what it would be
yeah, I understand that too.
as a whole. I just don't wanna short the residents and not do our due diligence.
Well,
But I'm only
I think we've done, you know, when we do due diligence, we did look at this, we had a real estate agent do an assessment, we had an appraisal done on it. This offer is in our favor as far as those terms go,
It's cash.
and it's cash. I think that we should, you know, make the decision then. So we can't formally say we're accepting the offer until we have a contract written up by our
Council?
attorney, but I guess unless there's opposition not to, then that's where we should go.
Do we wanna wait until after you talk to the historical
I-
society?
well,
and,
Yeah,
you know,
because we're gonna
that's
try and
kind
find
of-
out what's gonna happen with that building, so, we have to talk to the historical society, we have to prepare something with our attorney, and that will probably need 30 days to make that happen. I'm not gonna put a solid number on it, but, would that work with you?
Me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Whatever's needed. Is there a right to talk at all about keeping the building there? No.
we could talk about that as far as negotiations, but I think right now we're just trying to determine whether your number was good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
do you-
would love to help to keep the building preserved, without any, heartache on your end. But, we don't have to discuss it.
You know what, well, why don't you, get me in this week and think about to what extent you want to be involved with that building, and maybe that could be part of our negotiation as far as, Contract.
We're definitely interested in whatever we have to do, I guess, to maintain it. I guess the fine line is, are we paying, for everything, or would the township be willing
I
to
think,
do
I
it?
think I need to find the answer to that question.
Okay.
So let me talk with our historical society, let me make a phone call to the fairgrounds, and we'll find out, and let me get a little bit more information. You think about, what your thoughts or plans for it would be, and then we'll
It'd be
circle
just,
back with you.
it'd be just what it is right now. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think we have any, plans for it. It's just gonna be those seasonal thing, because it's not real comfortable out there.
Right.
If somebody wanted to do a small wedding and something like that, or a little get together, or maybe, it just wouldn't be much of anything. to
Right,
be
well,
honest with you.
think about what things that you would allow, and put it down on a piece of paper, and, maybe that might help with the historical society, and maybe with the residents, if a local resident wanted to come to you and say, hey, I'd like to get married there, would you be willing to do it? Those type of things would be nice to know.
Okay.
And, what we decide ultimately to do with that historic building, does that have any effect on whether or not you want
No.
the
No, whether that building's there or not there, we want to definitely move forward. I did like the idea of having something there from our past, and kind of would like to keep it in the township rather than in Powell or Fowlerville, wherever
It's
that
Fowlerville,
is.
it's
but-
Livingston County Fairgrounds are in Fowlerville.
Yeah, but
West
some-
Okay,
does not matter to me.
All right, thank you.
Great,
We'll get working on this, and I'll get in touch with you. Give me about 2 weeks, and we'll get going from there, okay?
Is that it?
That's it, you're free to go.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
thank you.
It's budgeting time, and it's that time of year where we start putting our budget together. So I'd like to discuss a few things. Obviously, we know that we have HVAC issues. We've already addressed that for next year, which is a big part of it. As far as the building goes here, is there anything that we need to budget for next year? Do we need any equipment, furniture, anything else that needs to be done? I do know of one thing. There's the shed out there, the door, has been damaged, and it needs to be replaced. I think that we should put a good steel door on that thing so it doesn't get kicked in again. And that needs to be fixed.
We're talking the entry door or
Yeah, that side door there that got kicked in, you can see it, it's not in good shape, so that needs to be addressed, so it's secured. Especially if we're ever gonna put anything out there.
I was gonna say, what are we gonna use it for? Do you wanna put a secure door on it?
Well, you know, we had talked a couple of months back at a board meeting about potential use with the sheriff's department and the deputy car that we have, our contract car. That's possibly a place for it to park, and so that's still an option, so, but regardless, that door needs to be.
Yeah,
So-
right, door.
I have election signs up there. Some of my.
Oh, do you, so
Yeah, so
your precinct signs, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so I mean, nothing of high dollar, but it still needs to be secured, nobody needs to be going in there, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree, I'm not suggesting anybody don't secure it, just secure it.
So that's one thing that needs to be done. Roads, we're continuing on roads. Obviously, we have the fund for chloride, and we had started on gravel on Linden Road from the south going north. So we've done, and we had a lot of other projects going last year. We had that big Denton Hill, so we didn't do, kind of held back on the graveling. If it's possible, I think it would make sense to go from Dean to Center, and then from Center to Hogan is paved, and we've already done part of the hill back behind the golf course. So if we went from Bennett Lake to Hogan, that whole strip would have been re-gravelled. I can get a quote for that. The other thing that I would like to get a quote on is paving White Lake Road from the flyover on 23 to Carter Road. I'm gonna start on White Lake Road, because while the gravel trains and the gravel pit being closed, that road is
Pretty beat up.
is pretty beat up. Don't wanna try and do too much. I mean, try not to let the cat out of the bag, but we might have another opportunity for people that don't participate in the primary pavement preservation program, to get something else done. So, you know, I'd like to have an extra $150,000, $200,000 available if that pops up.
Becomes available.
And then on Bennett Lake Road in 2011, we did some pavement repairs, and it needs a chip seal. And that'll help extend that road probably out another 4 or 5 years from its expected failure date. It needs it. I talked with the road commission about it, and they said that would be money well spent, and it's, you know, kicking the can down the road, and it's probably not that expensive to do a chip seal on probably 3/4 of a mile to a mile.
Okay.
So it'd be from White Lake on Bennett Lake Road to the county line, over on the other side of Morrow. It's probably a mile.
Yeah.
So I'd like to look at doing that and budget for that.
About Linden Road, north of Bennett Lake to the county line.
That's paved, and it's not primary road, so we're not eligible for matching funds
So
historically.
we can't get anything on that.
Yeah, so historically, we've said, we will put money towards a road if the county's gonna match us.
Okay.
And one time they said, well, we'll put money towards a road, but we're only gonna pay like 17%. We said, no, we're not.
Yeah. The roads that, by the way, are technically not our responsibility.
Basically have to drive down the middle of the road so your car doesn't disappear
Oh,
off.
you mean like Center Road and like Runyon Lake
Yeah,
Road,
yeah.
and like Heartland Road to the
Yeah,
north.
very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah, those are the ones too. Those are all secondary roads.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've been pushing and leaning on them to change, and they're starting to bend. We have a new road commissioner, Steve Wasilic, that sees the value in it. And even their engineers like, you know, we've got a couple townships that have really been working on their primary roads, and they're getting them fixed, and why aren't we fixing the secondary roads? There are roads, they're putting money towards them, it saves us money, we can do more stuff, so
Yeah, 'cause the
it's
amount-
just, it's a new mindset there, so, you know,
Amount of traffic that comes down Linden to White Lake, or to Bennett Lake to White Lake to get on 23 is
yeah,
big time.
yeah, even at Heartland Road up
Yeah.
there by the school,
Yeah.
the county line up there by, Royce Heights place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get that done too. But so I'll look at that and get some quotes and I'll bring them back, so you'll know what they are. So I've got door, we've got the HVAC system, we got roads that we're gonna look at. Anything else?
I was thinking maybe we should get another Nest cam and put down the hallway by our offices, just so that we can see any activity. Just
Right.
because like when the door got left open, we don't really know
Right.
what was going on there.
We had a meeting with our
Who was that guy?
insurance agent through, I've got his card on my desk.
I do too.
I called him, just before the Christmas break, and he says that there is a grant that's available that will allow us to buy security cams and the fire, the box for the key for the fire department, so they don't break the windows down.
Right.
So that will be covered by a grant, we can get up to $5,000. So that grant comes available in the spring, he said, and he said I'm on his list, and he will send me the grant and information, it's pretty simple to fill out. So,
It's the guy from Burning Flowers.
yeah,
Yeah.
asset management, that's what it was.
Yep.
Risk management. So, we're going to, I'd like to fill that out, and, you know, maybe we get some outside cameras and inside cameras. $5,000 will probably get a decent deal put in.
Sure.
We can go to Costco and buy some, have somebody install it, or whatever, they can install it. So, yeah, that, I have that on my radar. Unless you wanna go ahead and purchase the Nest Cam,
That's
or
okay,
you wanna wait till that happens.
we can wait.
Yeah, I don't think a Nest Cam's that expensive. But we'll definitely, we can budget for it anyway. Any other items that I need to?
Oh, one
fold
thing
into?
Jennifer was noticing is the parking lot,
The very first handicap,
Mhm.
there's a drop.
there's a drop from the pavement to the curb, not where the curb goes down, but from the bottom of the curb to the asphalt. There's probably almost an inch, like a little lip.
I noticed it when I went out.
So there was a lady, when I left one day before the holidays, and she went to come in, and her foot caught that. And I just thought she was stumbling, you know, hit the curb. So after she left, or got
It's
her in
the
the
old parking
door.
lot?
Yeah, it's right out the door, is the very first handicap. And there's quite a big gap between where it ends and where the asphalt is.
Is it consistently a drop where the whole thing needs to be filled in, or
I just think it's
think
not
or
high enough.
it's just like a little
Yeah,
sunken
the
in?
The pavement's
asphalt,
not high
Yeah,
enough to
isn't-
match the concrete.
yeah.
We'll have Phil take a look at that and see what he thinks we should do.
But it's a safety
just not
hazard.
safe.
we need to
Okay.
fix it.
I put it down, asphalt. Parking lot. Okay, anything else while we're here? If you guys think of anything, let me know, and we'll bring it back up at the, I'll put it on the list and we'll bring it back up at further budget discussion.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Do we have anything for disaster recovery? Business continuity, so if the place burned down tonight, where would we go tomorrow?
Mike's new house?
I mean, I used to do business recovery and disaster continuity plans. And so, just something to think about.
Probably not from a budget, so within the insurance contract that's there for the township, there's extra expense coverage. So there wouldn't be a budget issue, meaning you wouldn't put dollars or unattached or unencumbered dollars?
Right.
But you're right, from a plan standpoint, I mean, so there's a funding mechanism, then it just becomes, it's not about the funding mechanism, it's, is there a plan in place?
Yeah.
I have had conversation with TRW, the plant manager over there.
Yeah, is there a hot
Or-
site to go to?
He said if you ever got in a situation where you needed office space, we could set you up for a short time, wouldn't be a problem.
Well, you know.
Because I had talked to him in the past, because when we were talking about possibly renovating the old town hall and doing work like that, that we would have, might be, and he said, yeah, he goes, we could, you'd have to run your own resources and you'd have to have your own meter, you'd have to have your own cable and stuff, because we wouldn't let you on our network. But, or actually, he even said we could probably just pay them for utilities and stuff, but he wanted us to have our own data network in there.
It's something to think about. I mean, like I said, I used to do that for.
Isn't there I know there are 2, 3, maybe longer than that, I don't know, they start to run together after a while. 3, 4 years ago, there was a disaster or catastrophe plan, because all I remember is that one of the things was the fact that I'm the one that gets to talk to the press, right? So, I mean,
I'm
there's.
number one, you're number two.
Yeah,
That's the
there's-
emergency management.
Right, the
plan.
emergency management plan, if something goes sideways, then,
Yeah.
yeah. So there are, there are those things in play.
Yeah, we'd have Red Cross and all that too.
Yeah, but I mean, for people to come in and pay their taxes and,
Sure.
where do they go and what do they do now? Because this place isn't usable for however long, it's gonna be 3 months or 2 weeks.
Did I hear you say that you were looking for a pet project to do on the side?
I didn't necessarily wanna volunteer,
It's
but I mean,
I think that's what I heard.
it's something that, that I would help somebody on, yeah.
Or you could be voluntold.
Something like that. That happens enough on the planning commission.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we covered that. Item number 5 is request to purchase a new check deposit scanner. Wanna talk about check deposit
Yes.
scanner?
So at the end of the evening, we scan our checks and remotely deposit them. And the machine that we have currently is the same one, we've had at least 8 years, because it's the same one Joanne's used for duration here. And Flagstar no longer, it's a scanner for Flagstar Bank, and they no longer provide those, and they haven't for some time. So I talked to Yvonne, which is our rep, and she said that they're willing to, the price is $510. If we pay for it, they come in and install it, and then they credit us back $310. So we're only paying $200 for the new unit.
How many transactions do we push through that scanner? Quite a few?
Yes,
Okay.
all of our tax,
Yeah, so anybody that comes here and takes a tax payment, that's what it's, okay,
that's where it's going.
got it.
And right now, if you put a stack, even if you do 20, it may read 3 of them. Then you gotta take the 17 and you run them back through. Then you take another bundle and you run them through, and it only reads a couple at a time.
So-
It's very time
Was it
consuming.
DOS
So what does the new scanner do? Is it faster?
It's faster and it's, how did she explain it, like everything you scan, you can see it on your computer screen. So everyone, and if it doesn't read it right, we can actually see it.
You can find out what's wrong.
So it captures the scan,
Yes, so it's a
it
clear,
digitizes it so you
Right.
can see it.
so it's a clearer picture. It'll come to us clear. Right now, it's really fuzzy when it reads it, so you can barely see it
Yeah,
either,
well,
and the capacity to hold more checks
Okay.
is there too.
for $200, I guess.
Yeah, for $200.
So moved.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the purchase of a new scanner for the Treasury Department. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Is there any chance we could sell them back the old scanner for $200?
Well, yeah, maybe, I can try.
Well, you're doing their work for them anyway, so
Yeah.
that's what it's down to.
Thank you.
Well, what it comes down to are those, and there are some checks that still don't scan, even
Right.
after doing it 10 times, and I have to
Yeah,
take
take
them
them down.
and deposit them. Right, so.
Next is item number 6, approval of the public education grant requests. Now, just know that these are estimated amounts. We're not paying the estimated amounts, we're paying the actual invoice amounts on these. So some of them might seem high, but that's just the price that they quoted when they put these together, and they probably went to one site to get all the prices, so.
And while this comes through us, this is not budget, this is off-budget items.
This is an
for
off-budget
us.
item,
This is-
this
we're-
comes from,
We're nothing more than the fiduciary, or the fiscal agent for this money,
Yes.
right?
right,
Okay. I was,
it's township money, but we grant it out.
it's
We're-
township money that we can't spend, it's
Right.
essentially.
Right.
We can only spend it on equipment for educational purposes.
Yeah, so it's, yeah. So,
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the PEG grant requests for local schools. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, motion carries. We have no more new business, we have no miscellaneous business, public remarks. Anybody have any public comment?
Oh, no.
Being that there's none,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back to the subject of roads, do you have anything going for actually ditching on the sides of the roads in the township there?
what we do when we go through and we gravel a road or we do pavement work, we cut trees and we fix drainage. I'm not gonna say that, I wouldn't say that we're actually ditching it. Some areas it is a ditch, and some they're shaving it back so the water's coming off the road. So they're improving drainage off of the roads. Have you been down Heartland Road?
The gravel part, or?
Yeah.
What about?
That's what we're doing. If you go up to Center Road, you turn right on Heartland, you can see it's all been shaped, ditched, and the trees have
That
been
would be the
cut.
actual road itself. I guess what I'm talking about is like, in front of my home, there's a ditch where water stands, because the culverts are full. And, you know, to improve it, or clean out the ditch a little bit and clean out the culvert, is there anything for that?
What road are you on?
Denton Hill Road. Paved road over there, you know, Denton Hill between Germany and Rome Road.
You know, they just went through there. You might, we did all that paving over there. You should call the road commission and just tell them that you got water that's,
Yeah, that's
tell them where you're
the
at.
problem there, yeah.
that's pretty new, that did surprise me, because that's really new.
Because they went through there and
Yeah.
they did do drainage work.
Yep,
They
they
did do cross tubes. Because I remember a couple of people talking about wanting to make sure that their aprons were fixed after the cross tubes were in. So I know for a fact that that was addressed, so maybe something's gotten in there and plugged it up. So I would call the road commission and let them know.
So any, to make an improvement in that ditch or clean out the culvert, you have to go through the road commission?
Yeah.
It's their responsibility.
What is your address?
7382 Denton Hill Road.
Okay. Go ahead and call, but I'll talk with the road supervisor too and have him take a look at it, so.
Okay, yeah. You know, the problem is during heavy rainfalls, water stands in that ditch and, quite a bit. So I was just curious, you know.
Yeah, I'll have them take a look at it and see if it was something that they did and if it needs to be adjusted or whatever. I'll look into it.
Yeah, because I know the county goes through and does just that in different areas. You know, they, not actually putting in a new ditch, but just cleaning out or improving the ditch.
Is there any flooding that's occurring?
Pardon me?
Is there any flooding that's occurring or is it just water that's sitting?
Just water,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And-
some of the ditches, the water will sit there, but I'll tell them, I'll have them look at it anyway and see.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? All right, since we have no public comment or remark, I'll go ahead and ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and supported to adjourn our meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
If you get a chance to stay on.
Guys.